We often believe that we can exert influence over outcomes that are in reality beyond our control. Even when the odds are mostly left to chance, we still believe that we can direct the course of events. This is called illusion of control. At the core of this illusion is the inherent human desire for power and control. Power, in essence, is asymmetrical control over resources by allocating or withholding them. When we have power, or even only entertain the thought of having power, we tend to overestimate our actual influence. This sense of exaggerated influence enhances the illusion of control, particularly in scenarios where outcomes are determined purely by chance. Here is an experiment. You take some time to write an experience in which you felt powerful. Now you are presented with an opportunity to win an award by predicting the outcome of a die roll. You have the option to either roll the die yourself or delegate the task to someone else. Which option would you choose? A, rolling the die on your own, or B, having another person roll the die for you. If you opted for option A, you are in the same boat as all participants in a research study that examined the illusion of control. Recalling an experience where you felt powerful influenced your current perception of power. Every participant who felt powerful chose to roll the die themselves. However, when asked to recall a time when they felt powerless, only 2/3 of the participants decided to roll the die themselves. In the same experiment, participants were randomly assigned to be either managers, which is a high power condition, or workers, which is a low power condition. They were asked to imagine themselves working for a marketing firm. After reading the firm's background information, the participants were asked to rate the likelihood of their ability to control the firm's future outcomes. Again, those under the high power condition perceived greater control than those in the low power condition, further reinforcing the illusion of control influenced by perceived power. Having a sense of control can serve as an antidote to stress and anxiety, especially when faced with undesirable outcomes. The belief of having an ability to influence our circumstances brings us a sense of stability, reducing perceived uncertainty and the associated discomfort. However, a perceived loss of control triggers negative feelings, often inducing discomfort and apprehension. The emotional toll from the perceived loss of control can be so strong that individuals are often willing to pay a premium to maintain control. This phenomenon is often referred to as the control premium. Our desire for control can sometimes take on an excessive form, where some leaders resort to exercising their power and authority relentlessly and controlling every small detail. You've probably met a micromanager or a control freak at some point. But this extreme pursuit of control can often end up being more a burden than a benefit. There is a cognitive cost associated with making every single decision, especially those matters outside of our expertise. It's like an unnecessary tax on our mental resources that could have been more wisely used elsewhere. Moreover, every time you exercise your power and override others' ability to make decisions, you undermine their motivation and willingness to use their judgment and expertise. When they felt that their input and decisions are constantly disregarded or overridden by their boss, they lose motivation to participate actively in the decision-making processes. This leads to disengagement and reduced commitment to the goal of the organization or group. You may think to yourself, My boss is going to make his decision anyway, regardless of my recommendation. Why do I need to spend time offering recommendations? Well, control can indeed bring us a sense of stability. It infringes on others' sense of control, autonomy, and expertise. Remember, leadership is not about ourselves. It's about inspiring and motivating others to achieve a shared goal. The illusion of control can significantly influence a leader's motivation to build a team of potential successors, especially if those successors are more competent and poised to challenge the leader's cherished authority. It's not uncommon for leaders to subtly obstruct opportunities for their team members to shine in order to safeguard their own position. Cognitively, they understand that their organizations need more competent middle-level leaders and that resources need to be distributed to lower runs. Emotionally, however, they have a fear of chaos if they were to relinquish any control. They fear that loosening the reins might send the organization spiraling into disorder. However, in reality, most organizations don't just survive. They may sometimes thrive following the departure of a high-level leader. No leader, despite their inflated sense of control, can orchestrate everything. So instead of judging leaders by their organization's performance, a measure often highly susceptible to external circumstances, what if we evaluate leaders based on their ability to develop more effective leaders? However, giving up power and control is no easy task. When we feel our authority is being stripped away, our natural response is often to fight back. Any effort perceived as reducing our sense of control risks igniting fierce resentment and resistance. An example can be seen in state takeovers of low-performing schools intended to give governors more authority. Critics vehemently opposed those measures, arguing they eroded local control and provided a platform for potential abuse of power, including misappropriation of taxpayer funds. People who voluntarily relinquish control instead of grasping onto it earn respect and recognition because it goes against our natural instinct. At the end of the Revolutionary War, George Washington stood as a revered and prominent figure, hailed for his role as a commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. As the war concluded, many people expected him to take up the position of the de facto ruler of the new nation. However, in a surprising move, he decided to step back from the center of power and resigned his commission as the commander-in-chief of the army. Washington's decision did not go unnoticed. Across the ocean, King George III of Britain heard about Washington's decision to voluntarily let go of his power. In an age when rulers rarely, if ever, willingly relinquish the control, this was unheard of. The king said, if he does that, he'll indeed be the greatest man in the world. Start observing your decision-making process and those of others around you. See if you can spot instances of illusion of control. Please feel free to share your comments below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.